Hey everybody, welcome to another video with the Grow Big Initiative. We are here today with Tracey Ford from the U.S. Commercial Service. She is part of an amazing network across the globe that helps U.S. companies enter and sell their products into overseas markets. Tracey, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
Tracey, where are you right now?
So I'm located in Ottawa. I'm at the U.S. Embassy in Ottawa, Canada.
Okay, and it says on your byline, commercial specialist. What are you a specialist in?
We cover a lot of things on a very broad basis. For example, I'm the National Sector Coordinator for all things IT in Canada, but I have a team of colleagues that work with me across the country on that subject to make sure that we have enough contacts and information to provide to our U.S. clients. I'm also the team lead for all commercial diplomacy issues in Canada, which means if there's a barrier to trade, that would probably come through me.
Awesome. And obviously, everybody there, Tracey is being extremely humble because everybody I speak to says she is the go-to person for all things also e-commerce in Canada. And so that is one of the things we are talking about today. So we're going to dive right in. Tracey, thank you again. First question. Why should a U.S. exporter or a seller of U.S. products even think about entering the Canadian market?
That's a good question, Josh. So Canada is often the first place that many U.S. companies look at when considering exporting. And it's really for good reason. For the most part, Canada has a shared language, cultural, and similar lifestyle pursuits to Americans. And Canada has a stable economy with similar laws to the United States. The USMCA trade agreement also provides many advantages to doing business here. Canada is an affluent, high-tech society with a market-oriented economy and high living standards. In 2021, Canada ranked the 9th largest economy in the world by the World Bank and 23rd among 190 economies in the ease of doing business. Like the global economy, the Canadian economy is also expected to transition from pandemic recovery-driven growth to more normal growth in 2022. And e-commerce offers great potential for U.S. companies that are wishing to sell here. Canada's business to consumer e-commerce market is said to closely resemble that of the United States market in terms of features and preferences. And the biggest difference is that Canada's market size is much smaller, due primarily to significantly lower population, which is only about 1/12 the size of that of the United States. That said, the market opportunities in Canada in e-commerce are not insignificant. The pandemic is a primary reason for this, and it's really pulled e-commerce adoption in Canada ahead by about 5 to 10 years. And Canadians have tried doing certain things online for the first time and have shifted their routines to be more dependent on the internet and therefore shifted the country to a more digital economy. Year over year, e-commerce sales have more than doubled, and with about 110.8% increase compared with May 2019. These record gains in e-commerce have occurred as retail sales experiences record declines. So e-commerce is increasing and in brick and mortar stores decreasing. When it comes to online shopping, almost every Canadian with an internet connection is participating, about 88% reporting making a purchase online in the last 12 months. And with smaller businesses in the retail sector really adopting e-commerce and having an e-commerce presence, the top online channels in Canada are still remaining to be Amazon.ca, Walmart.ca, and Costco.ca.
Wow. Okay. So that answers a lot of kind of the overview of the market. Obviously, the people getting online are not just the grandmothers and the deep kind of rural penetration. It's everywhere, including the higher value consumers that maybe previously would travel to the U.S. and due to COVID have become really accustomed, I would imagine, to online purchasing. Is that accurate?
That's accurate, yes. Everybody's hopping on board.
So that speaks a little bit to the why now. Could you dive a little more into why now? What should we be doing? How do we dive deeper right now into Canada for e-commerce?
Sure. I'm just going to touch upon some of the trends in Canada in e-commerce right now. And the first one that I'd like to touch on is the increase of mobile and social commerce. So mobile commerce keeps growing in Canada. It's accounting for about 36% of all e-commerce sales. And perhaps not surprisingly, it's the young consumers that have shown a greater trend towards adopting mobile purchase and are more responsive to mobile ads. The adoption of social commerce also accelerated during the pandemic. In January 2022, there was an estimated 33 million social media users in Canada, and these numbers are on the rise. Recent data from Statista showed that market leader Facebook accounts for about 65.5% of all social media visits. And that's closely followed by Twitter at 13% and Instagram ranked third with 7.65% of visits. The second trend is the growth in the buy now, pay later option. So buy now, pay later, for those of you that aren't aware, is a service that is offered by online retailers at the time of checkout. And it allows the purchaser the ability to break up the cost of a purchase into several smaller payments. And it's really taking Canada by storm. So overall, users of this service tend to be younger, with the largest group, age group being in about 18 to 34, spending on average about $200 or more, and generally buying furniture, appliances, electronics, or clothing. The most common platforms being used for this trend in Canada are Klarna, Affirm, PayBright, Zip, Afterpay, and Sezzle. The third trend I want to talk about is cross-border shopping. So many Canadians are already quite familiar with cross-border shopping. That's partly because 80% of the Canadians live within 180 kilometers of the US border. But e-commerce is really increasing that trend. Canada's homegrown e-commerce market was very slow to develop, and this created a strong cross-border shopping culture. The pandemic has fueled that trend. And when you couple that with the demand for lower prices and better selection that come from the US market, it's really driving that whole trend. The fourth trend is that wholesale sales are increasing. As Canadian retailers come to recognize that e-commerce is pretty much a necessity, business-to-business suppliers are beginning to explore online opportunities to better serve their consumers' unique needs. For the most part, Canadian companies have been slow to respond to this trend as well. And as a result, there's a significant, untapped, expanding digital market in Canada that could prove to be a significant competitive advantage for US distributors. Finally, number 5 is the interest in interactive shopping using virtual reality. So as customers get more comfortable buying products through social media, it opens up a whole new way to interact through those platforms, and virtual experiences are really leading the way. While this is still several years away from being commonplace in Canada, there's a great deal of interest in learning more. Even the Canadian e-commerce platform company Shopify is getting on board. Shopify launched a virtual reality application for merchants and fashion designers that delivered a whole new way of examining clothing designs within a virtual studio.
Wow. Okay. So this is obviously a lot of really interesting trends there. One of the things I've also noticed is when you're saying there's growth in online consumers, there's also growth in online retailers in Canada, which means there's opportunities for US service providers that service the e-commerce payment space, cross-border growth, digital marketing, all those services that we've been working with have an opportunity to sell their services into Canada. Is that also true?
Yeah, services becomes a little bit more of a challenge when you're talking about whether the work is done in the United States, whether it's done in Canada. There may be additional withholding taxes. There could be some other challenges. But yes, the growth of products and services are both happening in Canada.
Okay. If anybody wants to dive into that topic a little more, I presume they can ping you as well.
Absolutely.